Do you find yourself regularly being bullied by other people? The answer could be not the world is full of bullies, but that you are playing a role in being bullied, like a magnet drawing bullying behavior to you, even from people who aren't chronic bullies to everybody else. I think it's important that we recognize this. In nature, you do see that there are examples of animals that seem demure and they just sort of attract the bullies to pick on them, to knock them around a little bit. And we have morally judged this as a great harm to society, and we shame it and we condemn it, and we are at war with bullies. But I think we need to understand the dynamics much better. I had a little of both growing up. There was a period in grade school where I was bullying other kids. I may have been being bullied at home to some degree, and that could have contributed to that, but I was definitely picking on other kids, dominating other kids. And then in middle school, it switched 180 degrees. I was being picked on by other kids. I didn't feel like I had much of a defense strategy. I had no strategy to deal with it, really. And I just was a loser for years. So I know what the pain of it is, and I know what the temptation of it is from both sides. And I don't think it's anyone's fault. I don't think it's a conscious choice. I think it's a subconscious instinct that for young children, essentially we're trying to, we focus on the things that stick out, the traits, the behaviors that stick out with other people that don't fit the common culture or don't fit what the common culture is championing as healthy. And so if somebody's got some sort of, moping around like walking like this all the time, it's almost like it just attracts your attention. You just kind of like want to poke that person, like snap out of it. What's wrong with you? Why are you drinking this so much? Why are you so sad? And of course, that doesn't work. Bullying just increases the sort of troubled behavior that this person is showing. Now, this person may have been traumatized by some experience growing up. And then when a bully comes in and they sort of push this person around, they're just adding to the trauma. And of course, this hurts the entire society because you have more traumatized people in society now. So bullying is not a good thing. But how do we solve it? You don't solve bullying by bullying the bullies. The reason most bullies bully is because they were bullied in the first place. So more bullying is not going to solve it. More shame, more strong policy or forceful intervention isn't going to solve the problem. It's not going to turn that around. I think there are several ways to deal with this, but primarily it's about shifting culture. Understanding this is a systemic thing, it's somewhat biologically driven, and it's somewhat culturally tilted or spun. And so if it's biologically instinctual to find kids that look traumatized and to push them, to test them or bully them. And perhaps the reason for this evolutionarily is to create solidarity of culture within the in-group, to prevent any outliers from damaging the structural integrity of the herd as a cohesive machine, because cohesive herds survive better. Now, we can say that in modern society with multiculturalism, there are great advantages to diversity, and there are. But at a basic biological tribal level, we don't understand that. Our brains don't understand that. We don't get that diversity is a good thing, so we literally try to rub it out. And perhaps that's the reason for racism, really, is that we're trying to smooth out any irregularities in the in-group. So the hurdle for us to really embrace multiculturalism is a big one because it pushes against a lot of our internal wiring. Obviously, it's needed because we're failing if we don't do that. Now, back to the individual bullying scenario, the person who is attracting bullies to them through their bullied persona, they need to kind of come into awareness around that. We need to, rather than receding into our shell like a turtle, we need to expand and become more vulnerable. And so maybe, and that's a big ask, I know, it's a big ask, because you do not feel like being vulnerable when you've been being picked on. But that is really kind of what's necessary, is to expand rather than contract. And not to be super vulnerable. I mean, when you show yourself, you want to have a certain amount of armor. You don't need to trust everybody out the gate, and you shouldn't. You should have good boundaries where you're like, excuse me, that's inappropriate. Excuse me, I don't want you talking to me that way. And if they keep on picking on you, maybe you do go up the chain of command to get teachers and adults or whoever to support you in your defense of self. But you do need to expand your field in order to deal with this. I think a lot of people find that they are always getting sort of picked on like a little kid, even as an adult, for not taking enough responsibility. And they might not have heard it that way, but that's what's going on, is that when you recede into your little self, it's like a defensive mechanism, and you basically cut yourself off from the rest of the tribe, from the rest of the group. And that's what that cowering body posture suggests. And so even a good leader within a tribe would possibly pick on you to say, hey, show up. Where's your responsibility? I need to count on you as a tribe member. You don't look like you're going to be someone I can count on. You look like you're weak. You look insular, like you don't care about the tribe and what we need. Do I need to get rid of you? Like, that's kind of what's going on, I think, at a biological level. And so what we need to do, if we're in that cowering state, we need to recognize, oh, I'm cowering. This may be trauma from childhood. I may be reliving a moment where I felt small and belittled and I had no power. And we need to recognize that and expand our field of responsibility. If you expand your field of responsibility, then you're also expanding your awareness, of course. And so you start to see, what is that needed over there? What is needed over here? You start to notice the relational dynamics that you've been ignoring, that you've been hiding from. And you may start to learn how to help that person, how to reassure that leader that you are accountable, that you will help the tribe, how to reassure that bully that they're okay, that they don't need to pick on anybody because they're deserving of love. You never thought of doing that, did you? Reversing the dynamics. That's a kind of like a Jesus move, love your enemy, but it works. It actually works. I had a fight with some kid the first day of kindergarten, and I thought, we're gonna be enemies for the rest of the year. And right after school, his parents came up to me and cordially invited me over for dinner. I don't think I could come that night, but it didn't matter. It changed we were friends for the rest of the year. It just flipped it around. And so the power of love is similar to the power of responsibility. When you grow your field of responsibility, people can feel it and they hand you more power. They hand you more authority. And I think this is the most significant thing. That by instinctively reacting to trauma and caving into our little hole, we're attracting people to poke at us and pick at us because they think we're not healthy, we're not showing up for the group, and they need us to show up for the group. If you instead can expand and grow bigger, then not only do these people not pick on you because you want to know what's wrong. You want to solve their problem. They don't need to attack you to solve their problem. You're coming to them preemptively to solve their problem and to take more responsibility. Now, instead of them seeing you as a someone to pick on or as a weak link, they're seeing you as a leader. And then the relationship completely changes. The frame that you've been carrying changed to high responsibility, wide field of awareness and responsibility turns you into a leader in the tribe. And all those dynamics go away. All those things change. People respect you. They speak with you with respect. And bullies, people who are really traumatized and they're bullies, they'll continue to sort of behave that way, but you can disempower that very easily by simply doing what I've said. Just expanding your field of responsibility makes you too big to react to their bullying. Now, obviously, physical bullying is another whole thing. And if it's physical bullying, then you need to get out of that, because the physical bullying, I think, historically knocks people around such that the trauma loop inherently happens in the body, and you can't just think your way out of that. Basically, the trauma loop can be restimulative in such a way that you don't have the tools on your own to get out of that loop. So then you really do need some form of therapy or healing work to rebound. So never deal with physical abuse, ever. It's creating more mental baggage and trauma for you to deal with later in life. But as a responsible person, you wouldn't allow that. You would have brought yourself up to going, no, excuse me, let's deal with this more politely. Like I would love to solve this problem that you're having with me, but I don't want to do it this way. If you will speak with me civilly, I will have this conversation. And if they get more abusive, you just cut them off. You just have to leave. It's that simple. And any kind of physical abuse is just zero tolerance. I would say zero tolerance. And I think that goes for kids too. Kids just need to learn at a young age not to physically assault other kids. I know that kids tussle, and for boys, tussling, they want to tussle. And so you sort of want to create an environment where they can tussle in a safe way that's not going to create trauma for anybody. Because I think it's instinctual. I loved tussling as a kid. And I think more than anything, that's why I was a troublemaker as a child, is that I was so physical. I just wanted more wrestling. I just wanted to do that. So I don't think it should be zero tolerance, like you expel or cancel this kid just because they were physically abusive to somebody. Those are all teaching moments where we learn to be better, where we learn to have compassion for somebody else. And it is said that you don't have compassion until you've felt pain, but every child has felt pain in some way. You don't need to bully them for them to get it. In fact, bullying them just makes them more traumatized, more likely to be bullies. So instead, let's bring the awareness to the situation. Expand the field of awareness, expand responsibility, and then I think that all of this gets a lot better for us collectively as a society. And I dare step into the muck of cancel culture and say exactly the same principles are true here. You don't solve anything by canceling people. If people have broken the law, okay, and then they need to be prosecuted so that we know that the law works and it's not being ignored for the boys' club. But if someone has just done something offensive, that's a great opportunity to have a conversation, to take someone's bullying behavior and say, hey, this is really hurting people. How do we solve this together? How can you address these issues? And maybe there's a way that you can change your behavior that will actually get you what you want better without harming these people. Yeah, you know, I think that all the talk of racism and sexism and all these other things too, it's like teaching moments are what we need, and perhaps just more and more public teaching moments. In some cases, private teaching moments are usually better because there's less shame involved. But you know, if it's a corporate culture that needs to change, why not have a big, full corporation discussion and invite a lot of voices to chime in so that you get perspective on what's really going on? All right, that's long enough. I bored you to tears. Have a good day.